Deborah, it's great to see you. I mean, it's so nice to catch up again after it must be a year, isn't it? Or something like that since we last talked about commercial real estate. So, how are you?
Rebecca, it's so good to see you. Thank you again for having me. And it's been fun because we've been able to catch up along the way just personally and get to know each other. And I like that. It makes it.
Yeah, it has been good. And sort of exchanging ideas about sort of women's groups and women in business. It's been good. It has been good. So it is good to see you here. And what I really wanted to talk to you about is what the market's like at the moment in commercial real estate. Because let's face it, we've not exactly had a quiet year in the world. It's been somewhat Tim. I think it's a word that I could probably use. So, I mean, from your point of view, what's the market like at the moment?
Yeah. So I think the market, it's really interesting. I think we are in a maybe the second or third year of holding out and holding on. And we see that a couple ways. Our borrowers, our sponsors, our property owners are trying to hold on, for a change, a big change in the market. And the same way with the lenders. Unless they are being forced, they are holding on by just, kind of delaying the inevitable and not recognizing the problem or not dealing with it except by just collecting interest and staying in place. And so we have that. We've seen a little crack in the markets with financing starting to open up. People are getting more creative with financing strategies, and we will see that continue to open up a little bit. Rate cuts yesterday will help. It's a good start. And but yeah, I think that we're still in the ball game, but not anywhere near finished.
So, what do you think's driving the current wave of distress in commercial real estate? Is it interest rates? We talked about the changes yesterday, or do you think there's structural issues, sort of deeper things at play here? What do you
I
think?
No, I would have to say I think it's deeper. And it's something that you and I've talked about before. It's a story of have and have nots. So your class A communities, your new construction, whether that's office, retail, multifamily, industrial, those are darlings and they're doing well. They've got great debt on them, new debt. They have new energy, new amenities, everything that you could want. And they are pulling tenants away and luring tenants away from what I'll call the have-nots. The older office buildings, the older multifamily. We're seeing a continued decline in rents and a continued ask for more and more amenities. And I heard something the other day. I haven't fact checked it yet, but I heard if you were to think about how much office space we need, for example, in the United States, we have enough in place right now to accommodate us for, I don't know, 2 or 3 decades of office space. That's a lot of office space, but then who wants, the old office building without all the bells and whistles or the slower elevator or things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So because I work from home now, I so rarely go in an office that when I do, and you go down to London, I'm like the girl from the country. I was sort of looking around at the change. You think, wow, look at these lifts. How do they work? Because they're all very techy now. So I totally understand that. So from your point of view, which are the cities that are seeing the most distress in the US? And what are the top asset classes?
Yeah, so office definitely continues to be a struggling asset class.
Mhm.
And we see it in a lot of the major cities, Chicago, um, New York, Houston. Those are cities that we're seeing. San Francisco, clearly, office distress. And it's, that work from home is here to stay. It's getting more solid, it's getting more structural. And we do have a lot of larger corporations like the JP Morgan saying you will come into work, which is a really good thing for our employees, right? We need to have some sort of balance and some sort of sharing of ideas and collaboration and
I
seeing.
agree.
I totally have that. But also
Mm.
working from home is also very helpful. It lets it can save drive time, commute time, prep time for getting ready for work so that you can actually spend more hours working. I'm sure that you've done this in the past, but I used to drive to work, go do my work, drive home, take care of everything, and then after everyone went to bed, work again, which
Yes,
was
I
not the
think that's common.
but now, right, it's work from home and it's easier done. So, there's good and bad in it, but I definitely think that we need to see each other. And
Yes.
so the office, and then all the other asset class that's really struggling is the multifamily. We are seeing a fight in rents with a decline, and we are seeing lenders, slowly but surely take assets back. A lot of, defaults are happening in the structured finance space. I know that the lenders that we're talking to are so busy with so many defaults and assets that they're trying to manage through, and also with office. Um, yeah, so that's what we're seeing. Office and multifamily are the biggest struggles.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, isn't it? So in these sorts of situations, there's always somebody that thinks, aha, I can grab an opportunity here. And that's one great thing is you can rely on human nature to find good things in there that they can grasp onto and make something happen. So are there any sectors that are actually creating opportunities right now? People who are using their initiative and going off and doing exciting new things?
Yeah, we're still hearing about the office to residential conversions. That is a lot of work.
Mm.
There are probably, I've seen probably 4 or 5 success stories that are happening. Nothing that is a wave at this point. That's a definite, easy to do. But what we're seeing from an initiative standpoint, and I think this is fabulous, is a lot of people are coming up with ways to measure it early on, and to, based on the structure of the building and the way it's built and all of the mechanical and everything, they're able to take a look at the building and then tell you a success rate. I think that's super creative and great.
Yeah.
But from the opportunity standpoint, it is really hard to put that new money to work today. And if you're thinking this is the year of, getting a deal, getting something at, you know, below replacement cost, significantly off market, we're not really seeing that happen. We are seeing a lot of lenders take the slow path to disposition. And when the lenders are holding the keys, it makes it really hard to come in and bring in new money and still maintain that old principal balance that, doesn't support, isn't supported by the property anymore. The lenders, what we're seeing is a long process for execution of a strategy, and that it's easier to just collect the interest payment and wait and hope that the market bails you out instead of taking today's loss. So deferment is kind of the word. The opportunity, where it comes from, it might be at a higher level, buying into a company, buying the bonds, things like that. But we're not seeing a lot of transactions happen where you're getting something at significant discounts.
So can I ask you about data centers? Because this is something that's obviously we've just had President Trump here talking about Britain becoming a big center for AI data centers. What about in the US? Are there data centers being put into areas and using up offices and commercial property space there?
Yeah, so far, I've heard about conversion to data centers for a lot of office, but I haven't seen a lot of it. I've heard about it and seen it in Florida. One of the things is I've heard about nuclear plants being reopened for
Mm.
AI, to support AI technology. And in fact, on the housing sector side, I've heard it's easier to open up or reopen a closed facility than it is to get housing built, housing permitted. And I think it's, just because of on the housing side, we're trying to be very diligent and careful about what we build versus on the babysitter side, we're so excited about technology and what it can do for us, and being part of the AI wave. So.
Yeah. So there you go. You heard it here. Go get yourself a rental house and turn it into a nuclear power station.
There you go. Right.
Or an old office. Oh, so just going back to the sort of restructuring the different lending, you've got the three different sources. So you've got traditional banks, sort of commercial mortgage, backed security loans, and then the alternative lenders and debt funders. So how are they lending in different ways? What's going on in the marketplace?
Well, the banks are still cautiously lending. A lot of them are trying to reduce their exposure to commercial real estate. So they're really encouraging payoffs or a collaborative sale process where the owner of the property will, select a broker that the lender likes, take the asset to market, and hope for a recovery that pays off the loan. So that's what we're seeing with the banks. With the alternative lenders, they have a little bit more staying power depending on their fund, and are willing to, for some sort of contribution from the sponsor, give you more time. And the securitized debt market, what we're seeing is a lot of lenders are looking, they are looking for a capital commitment from the sponsor in order to extend the loan, except it's really hard to figure out how that capital gets repaid. So instead, what we end up doing is a lot of just staying in place, and either a receiver or the sponsor continue to manage the property. The lender's protected because they're collecting 100% of the cash flow. Property's in great condition, and they're just waiting for the market to bail them out, or they're managing their risk by managing their book.
Interesting. So what about the top US private credit firms? What are they up to at the moment?
They're buying. So, except they're buying companies, right?
Oh, I thought you were saying nuclear power stations. Yeah.
Maybe. I haven't seen securitized debt market, SASB, with that one yet, maybe. No, they're buying. We saw I think there was an article about a buy into Yes Communities, right? It's a more of a affordable housing product. And I think that we're seeing more of that is, how do you get your yield? If you're looking to get it, maybe you have to buy into the company instead of the real estate if you can't shake the real estate loose.
So is everywhere the same across the US at the moment, or you see real regional differences? Because the one thing that I always see whenever I visit the US, and I absolutely love coming to the US and not just seeing the cities, but going really into the US and seeing the countryside, and it's so different from one state to another, and the people differ as well. So is there really different environments in the US in terms of commercial real estate, or is it all sort of is the distress pretty evenly distributed at the moment?
Well, I think the distress is pretty well, I wouldn't say well distributed, because also our development is not well distributed. So, but one thing about the US is the Class A markets are doing well. Okay, your Class A assets, let's just put it, Class A assets are generally doing very well. Anything less is, either working through or working through a distress, or working, to stay, kind of stay above water, keep your head above water, if you will. And across the United States, one of the things about us is, we, with all of our states, we have state law that governs all of our real estate and our real estate practices. So you maybe have more states, and then it gets down to at the municipality level. So we see more focus in some areas on governance, on ESG and things like that, like where that's rolling out. And what I've seen is, over the next 10 to 20 years, there will be more focus on that. And that's ongoing, right? better our buildings, better their development, better our communities. The the downtown markets, some of them are struggling. They need to be really, very, very pedestrian and accessible, friendly. And we still have a lot of car cities,
Yeah.
especially in the South. We're still a very drivable nation, and it will probably be a long time before we're not. Now, maybe that's going to help with autonomous cars. Who knows? I'm sure that will help, but we're still very drivable. So we're still very parking dependent and fuel dependent, and still a lot of people drive one car. One person, one car. So I think that those cities might be a little bit slower to recover with the back to office movement that we're seeing. But I think it's across the nation. There's not any one place that is better than the other from a office. Whether you have office in Milwaukee or office in Houston, it could still be struggling.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful to know. So how the sort of, you talk about the social environmental issues, so how are they contributing to commercial real estate distress at the moment? Are they contributing to distress?
I have yet to see it contributing to distress as much as it contributes to attractiveness, if you will. So for a new investment, right, a new build, it's going to have it. If it doesn't, then tenants care, and so I think that, and that's across the board, right? It is, even if it's multifamily or office. I think your tenant does care about what you are doing to the environment or for the environment. We've seen there are some companies that have really interesting programs rolling out to create a greener office building, if you will. That's advantageous, and we are seeing our larger tenants, especially our international tenants, asking, as they're talking to us about leases and what's going on at the building that they are considering, they are asking, what are you doing? How are you contributing to the environment, or how are you reducing your footprint on the environment? And I think that we will continue to see the pressure from an international basis and then coming down to a national basis, because our tenants, we do care. It just has to show up in a way that makes sense for everybody, because it is a cost. And so the cost has to be paid for, and it's usually borne by a tenant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting to hear you talk about sort of the sustainability and climate issues, because doing these podcasts, one thing that I do know is it varies so much across the world. So talking to Australians very recently, they were talking about how now within the audit, Australian businesses all have to demonstrate their sustainability figures, and it has to be shown within the audit. And what the government expect is them to show in data terms what they've done to reduce their climate burden and so on. So they can no longer greenwash, I should say. They can't just hide it anymore and say, oh yeah, we got some recycled paper last week. It's actually got to be there on in the documents, in the legal documents. So I mean, I think America, if I'm right, is quite a way behind that in terms of requirements and attitude. But is that everywhere in the US in terms of buildings, or is it, or people more aware in the cities, or where's the driver coming from? Is it a universal drive for more climate aware building, or is it just cities, the major cities?
Again, I think we see it with our international companies and national, and then we see it in, you've probably heard about this, but certain areas of the country seem to focus on more sustainability than others. And so it's almost like how our laws run down to the municipality level, so does often our desire for sustainability. But we have a really large practice that works and helps companies do that, and set up policies, procedures, implement. And so we're quite busy with that. And we, I would say once you have that footprint, it's something that, you can replicate depending on, what you're building and where you're building. Because our buildings are down to the municipality level of the rules. So it's not like you could take a New York and then implement it in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting to know. I hadn't really thought that through, but yeah, that must make it quite hard actually.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. And even for our, if you think about the home builders, they also have to think about that, right? What to do in one market versus another market that they're in. And then the affordability factor in each market and what to deliver for the homeowner in that market. So it while we look at our, from a national global perspective, we look as if we're one big country with all the rules in each state and then driving down to the municipality level. It's a lot of work for new construction or reconstruction, things like that for our investors.
Well, hopefully the Australians can get it all sussed and then teach us all what to do.
Yeah.
Let them work it all out.
Well, though we do have, all Australian funds do invest over here, so it will matter, and that's how, the capital and the investment capital, and then the banking, the financing capital will make more of an impact than anything probably on how well and how fast that gets executed versus regulations. That's just my personal thought based on experience. The money drives it.
No, that's really interesting. So come on, get out your crystal ball. Let's look into the future. And and you tell me, what do you think the emerging trends are going to be in commercial real estate in the near future?
Oh my gosh, emerging trends. I think that we are going to be very person friendly. So let's just say if you're in your office space and you're in any of the space, right? We've got to think about what will make it interesting for you to be at work. That sounds crazy, right? I mean, interesting to be at work, interesting to be at home. So I think that we're going to continue to see creativity, but I think, it's probably going to come in faster and faster as we continue to embrace and expand upon, the artificial intelligence and the growth around that and the autonomous cars. I think that even though we are a society built for physical humans walking around, walking up steps, opening, twisting doorknobs and such, I think that what we are going to see is a faster evolution of space as it continues to be more and more friendly, and yet more and more of an acknowledgement that we don't need as much space. I think that's what we'll see here in the United States, because we're used to building big for what we're used to. We had so much space. And I think that we're learning that maybe we don't need as much space, and getting used to sharing offices and reserving. And even within our company, I reserve an office when I go in, just to make sure that that space is available. I think that we're going to continue with our service-oriented communities and to keep that going. I don't know if that really hit the answer.
No, it's actually hugely interesting. I like the idea that the US is sort of looking at being smaller, really. I mean, we have the other problem that we've got so little space that you literally have to fight to get so I have to do that in my own house to get a desk.
But think about it and look at your buildings, right? They're there forever.
Yes.
And I mean, we've got, look at the Empire State Building still being used, right? I was reminded of that on a podcast the other day. I'm like, that office building is still being used. I couldn't tell you what its occupancy is. It was built a long time ago, but we don't have a lot of that. We don't have a lot of older, cities and things like you do in the UK. So even Houston, is new. Dallas is new compared to the world. But so we're still early, but I think that we're learning that we're going to make adjustments to what we have and understand and learn new ways to use them.
And I think being newer makes it easier to make those adjustments and actually to change that property in ways that are more exciting. If anything, we're very restricted in what we can do most of the time. So even if you have great plans, sometimes the buildings are protected or you just can't do what you want. So often it's about taking an old, really old building and trying to convert it to get as close to what you want as you can, which isn't always helpful with offices. So
adding air conditioning to a building, right?
yeah, we don't really do that. We just open the window here.
In the south where I am,
yeah, you're in Dallas.
When it's 103, we do not open the windows.
Yeah, it's just the windows here. They don't give us any luxuries at all. Where I used to work when I was young, the window opened off. This is like in my early 20s. The office opened onto the back of McDonald's, so I just had the wafts of Big Macs all day. It's great. That's luxury office space for you.
that was an amenity, McDonald's.
I'm not sure I was even eating there then, actually. Young girl in her 20s, it's not really high on their eating. Anyway, it's been so good to see you. And that was very interesting, really interesting to talk about what's coming. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure everyone else will find this really interesting too.
Yeah, it's really good to see you again, and I can't wait to see more and hear more of what you're doing. I love your pods.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. All right, well, you take care, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, bye, Rebecca. Thank you.